Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? If you see podcast release before you see this, you'll already know that I finally got a Telecaster. Anyway, beautiful rosewood fretboard. I've already done a little oiling to it myself. The typical Telecaster. This is a 64 vintage reissue, so there's a V in the serial number. I don't care if you see my serial number, there it is. It's got staggered tuner. This is the body of was American Vintage Series 64 reissue type thing from 2013. So what I did was I sat down and got the guitar, got it home, and I noticed that the decal, I'll go back to that decal, wasn't the same as all the other ones. I also noticed that the tuners weren't the same. The tuners people replace. And the backs of the tuners weren't the same. Again, and the neck didn't feel like a vintage neck. It felt like a very much more modern neck. Now, of course, in the store, I loved it. So I'm getting to something here. So, after talking to David on the podcast, we actually, at the end, I had taken a picture, which I'll inset here, maybe over here. And I said to myself, okay, well, we can figure this out, Jimbo. And I sent a picture of the heel to David, who instantly recognized that the neck was a hot rod neck. And I went online and I went to the Fender hot rod, and I'll put a picture of a hot rod right here. And the hot rod was the neck. It was definitely a hot rod neck. It's compound neck. So I took out my radius gauges and checked the neck, and sure enough, it aligned with what the hot rod specs were. So for sure, it was a replacement neck. Now, I bought it at my local shop. I bought it at my local Guitar Center. I brought it in and I said, geez, this is not the guitar that it says it is. And the guy said, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. And so he was going to look into seeing how they were going to price it. In the meantime, I brought home a Telecaster that was an Elite. The Ultra series before the Ultra was Ultra, the Elite series. So the Elite Telecaster, I got it home and had the S1 switch, had the noiseless pickups. I plugged it into my rig, and I didn't feel. It was a good guitar, just not a good Telecaster. I have an Ultra, sounds great. Hit the S1 switch to see if that felt different. And come to find out that the S1 switch for the Elite series at that time, this was the first year of the Elite. As a matter of fact, they announced the Elite in 2016, but this was marked as a 2015, which means it was probably a late year, 2015, released as a 2016. The S1 series switch didn't work. I called them and said, hey, the S1 series didn't work, or switch didn't work. And to fast forward, they said, bring the guitar in and we'll take a look at it. And I'm like, you can take a look at it all day long. I know what an S1 switch is. I know how it works, and I know you can't fix it. You have to replace it. But I brought it in, so I drove all the way over there in rush hour traffic because I had one thing in mind. If they hadn't sold the other guitar, I was going to revert back. I walked in the store, I brought it in, they looked at the S1 switch, they knew they had to buy a new one, blah, blah, blah. It was better if I bought it. They replaced it, took the money off of my guitar because for some reason, when they go through their channels, the supply chains are still a little slow. If I go through normal channels, I can get it in a few days. I was like, that's okay. I have no problem doing that because I trust them and I've worked with them before. Hey, is that other guitar still here? And the manager pulls it out of the back and he goes, that is the guitar. That's the one that's broke. I said, no. The one that got the wrong neck. He goes, what are you talking about? And so I showed him everything. Nobody had given him an update yet. It was still sitting in the back of the manager's desk. I put everything together, and we went over it. And he goes, let me see what you've got. And I showed him the pictures of the hot rod. I showed him the pictures of the headstocks of the other ones, and I showed him the radius. And the tech said, yeah, that is a compound radius. That is supposed to have 7 1/4. Then we found out that what Fender will sometimes do is if your guitar gets broke, they'll send you a neck, but it may not be the neck of the guitar you have. It may be a replacement neck that fits, and it may not be the one you had. So believe it or not, Fender will send the wrong radius. And I said, really? They'll send you a different radius? They go, yeah, that does happen. I go, then they've changed the guitar. The neck of the guitar is almost all your feel. That's the personal side of it. That's the part that you connect with. Well, then I realized, when I said that out loud, I realized I don't want the Elite. I want this guitar. I want the sound of this guitar with the feel of this guitar. So I said, look, can we just undo everything? And he said, yeah. And he said, what would you want to do as far as the pricing goes? He goes, would you take this much off? And I said, sure. I was ready to just give him the guitar back and walk out with this one priced the way it was, because it was already $600 under market value. And so I figured, okay, I knew I wasn't getting original case candy. I will be selling guitars to fund this one because I don't want to keep adding to this wall. So I'm getting rid of this Telecaster, and I may get rid of the PRS right here. So that's because I have a Strat I love, and the PRS is just a Strat. As much as it's a really good guitar, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I've played it one time out on stage. It's just that there's no reason to have all those guitars, and another guitar is coming in that's brand new. And so I was like, well, if I'm gonna keep this one, I need to get rid of something. And I promised myself that the number I have is staying the number I have, because it's already more guitars than I can play at a time. I have more gold top Les Pauls than I need, that's for sure. But the message is that and David explained part of this that my brain already knew, but I was not being practical. And that is, I had a guitar I loved at a price I could afford, and that was not even market value. It was well below market value. And I had a really good deal going on. And a Telecaster, finally, that I liked. What was I doing? And it came down to the fact that my brain couldn't get over the things I tell everybody to get over, like the little nick and the ding and the things like that. And I'm like, this isn't a collector's piece. Nobody's going to go around going, I need a 2013 vintage series Telecaster with exactly a 7 1/4 inch radius. And if that one person is looking for it, they can find another one. If I was to sell it, but I'm buying it to keep it, not to sell it, not to increase its net value, not to worry about what it's worth in 10 years or 15, 20 years when I'm gone and my kids have it. I realized I wasn't doing what I should be doing, and I was being practical about it. And getting the guitar I loved, and not worrying about all the other crap that goes along with it. You know? Is my guitar worth less because I have pick scratches on it? Is it worth less because of... there's somehow this thing that makes it a lesser guitar, and yet, I was just saying on the podcast, and yet Tom Murphy can drag belt buckles across it, and suddenly it's worth more money. They can sand the finish down, that they do all the way. They finish the guitar like a brand new one, and then age it, and then all of a sudden it's worth more money. It's a brand new 1959 custom, whatever. It has no inherent value. I mean, you can, I don't like how it feels on my forearm. Get a little emery cloth. Oh, that's better. But instead, it's like when Tom Murphy did it. Tom Murphy's team did it. So it's so much better than it was. And I'm like, no, it isn't. It's actually the same as a guy who just wore it in. Another one. my neck is starting to feel like it's my neck. I was talking to my friend who's got a custom shop 50s gold top, and he's had it for close to 10 years. And I said, look at this. There's your wear marks. There's where you play most of the time. There's our thing. And he was looking at it. He goes, wow, that's really cool. I go, yeah, you don't need to age it, because his uncle has a really cool aged one. And I said, you don't need to age it. This thing is great. And it sounds, it looks, it feels great. It's a great guitar. And this other one that he's got, I'm like, this one's getting there. That's what happens. You don't need to age it. Fake. Let it age. And so it's just a matter of the fact that, he plays a certain way. And he plays all the time. And yeah, I get people who say, oh, well, I don't have time to. Most of them wind up being things on the wall. Who cares? And I thought to myself, again, this is where it comes back to. I'm like, I was letting myself get caught up in that hype. I was letting me become the very thing I was saying was silly. And that is that, I'm sorry, I'm using the what do you call it, camera, so I'm actually looking at myself, even though it looks like I'm looking away, which I'm trying to figure out where in the hell is the camera on this thing? It's probably over here. Anyway, so I just, the point I was making here, because I wanted to make this under 15 minutes or about 15 minutes, is this. We're in a world where we feel like things have to be perfect. They don't. It's, do you love the one you're playing? And I do. I love the one that I've got. And that's the one I'm going to play. That's the Telecaster I'm going to take on stage. And that's the one I'm going to enjoy. My last Telecaster, which I kind of liked, was just too heavy. And I didn't like the middle pickup. And I thought I would. Thought I would love having a third pickup. And I didn't. I wasn't in love with that. So I guess what I wanted was a Telecaster, a good old-fashioned Telecaster with a compound radius neck, but an old-feeling neck. And that's what this has got. And that's what this is. And it is a 9-year-old guitar. Absolutely beautiful. It's a keeper. I've been Jim. This is Death Wish Coffee. And I hope you're having a wonderful day. I've been your Practical Guitarist.